Good, so it works. I'm actually not going to stand on stage. It's super weird. So let me make it a little more comfortable and kind of get down here and hopefully not make mic distortion happen. So, good morning. I wish the lights weren't in my eyes right now. It's a terrible thing. Some of you are wondering, why is a guy that's grown up in technology starting the morning when you stayed out way too late? And for that, I apologize for your bad decisions. You should have gone to bed earlier. My talk today is literally going to be centered on something that I think is very important when it comes to software. It's not going to be a geek talk. I'm going to let you read this slide. The gentleman who writes this cartoon, Markatoonist, absolutely nails some of the trends that happen in the market when it comes to all things, I guess, buzzy. And I promise you today that I'm not going to say artificial intelligence or blockchain. Okay? So, in the spirit of that, I did want to provide my thesis for this morning and get you guys a little bit fired up, because this is where the audience participation comes into play. So I know it's just like 8:30, the eggs have just hit the stomach, you're starting to think about waking up, it's all good. But I want you to think for a second whether or not my thesis rings true, and that is, there is an incredible disparity between the amazing and wonderful and engaging experiences that happen via technology in our consumer life, and across that chasm in our business life, it's completely the opposite. The software that we're forced to use in our business life is lackluster at best, somewhat stale, less than engaging, doesn't even know who I am, and kind of creates a friction that honestly doesn't need to be there. Is there anybody who would disagree with my thesis? Okay, good. Silence is acceptance and agreement, right? So at this point then, let me ask for your participation. What are some of the things that you just love in your consumer life when it comes to technology? Shout it out if you have it. Okay, convenience. You like AirPods? Give me a product. Amazon? Who said that? Oh, okay. I'd like to look at your shopping cart here in a little bit. All right, so you said Alexa, what else? Prime, yes. You like Uber? Who said Uber? Uber and Lyft. Okay. Anything else? Netflix. Yes. You're a binge watcher, aren't you? Check out Orange is the New Black or Stranger Things. It'll change your life. Okay, so yeah, that wasn't really hard, was it? You guys went through a pretty quick list of things that are engaging, things that you love in your personal life. It's the technology that actually makes you come back and actually ask for more. Now let's do the other thing. Tell me about the stuff that you have to use in your business life that you loathe. Did somebody say Workday? That's awesome, thank you. Well played. By the way, I sometimes feel that way too. Email. Who said email? Why? Shout it out. Way too many. Yeah. Email is like the ultimate time suck, right? People think they can just send you an email and there's an expectation that you're going to get back to them. Says who? Like, who made that rule? Does it make sense? What if I walked up to you with a wadded piece of paper and I wrote a message in it and I threw it in your face and walked away? Would there be an expectation that you would read it first, think about it second, and then maybe do a reply? So how many emails do you get every day that are unsolicited saying, Hi, I'd really like to meet with you about XYZ product. And then 2 days later, I don't know if you got my email, but I'd really like to meet with you about it. 3 days later, it's like, I know you're busy, but I'm just following up again. You're like, what are the other products that you have to use in your business life that are lackluster? Spreadsheets? Yeah, Excel, the last Microsoft product that will ever die. All right. A desk phone, like we're actually tethered to one place for 8 hours, just waiting for that magic ring. Oh, that was my neighbor. Right? So now we're starting to actually see, some of you were like a little cautious about this. Like, Joe's probably didn't get enough sleep last night. I'm not sure there really is a chasm to be crossed. But I hope that through this really quick introduction, we start to see that there actually is a wild gap of disparity between the experiences that we have in our consumer life and those that we're forced to live with in our business life. But I want to tell you, it doesn't have to be that way. So let's start with this as an additive measure to that original thesis. Most of the things that we use in life suck because they are complex. Think about that for a moment. Even some of your relationships are way too complex, right? So then what's the cure? As a human race, as a species, for millennia, we've sought for simplicity. When I think back to the folks who actually did this, this is the original, write on the bathroom stall for a good time, or I'm not sure what they were writing. But this is how they wrote, right? Bird, bull, man, bird, bull, man, bird. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. That's for a good time call. And it was simple, it was effective, and it worked. And yet here we are, like literally millennia later, and for those that don't get that word, that's thousands of years. Thousands of years past this era when we were writing in this type of a hieroglyphic. And we think we're so evolved. There's no way that we could yearn for or utilize that level of simplicity. My friends, you are absolutely wrong. The people who are laughing are guilty. So here we are. Simplicity matters. We know it actually promotes a better experience. I can say more to my 18-year-old son with one emoji reply than I could with a whole sentence. If I want to bring him to his knees, I just give an image. If I want to amplify it, it's a meme. And yet, for some reason, the things that we're forced to use aren't often that easy. And the question is why? Now, speaking of emojis and memes, if I could meme that guy's face on the top left, see the way he's like praying to some god up there, like, oh my gosh, let this line go away. It's amazing that our experiences in life sometimes never change. Like, why? Why in retail do we still have to queue in a line? And why are there only 2 registers open, but now they've got these self-checkout things that I'm not even sure are even better, right? Because the machine yells at you because you didn't put the right thing down and it senses the weight's wrong. It thinks you're shoplifting. Now the light comes on. The people come over and you're just like, oh, dear God, get me out of here, right? Like, this, let's end this. Should have stayed with Amazon. Right? But it's interesting because technology is starting to impact how we actually do things in the real physical world. Imagine this being your future, right? We know it's like this in the virtual domain. You go shopping, and if it takes longer than N number of seconds, you will abandon your cart with extreme prejudice. This software sucks, I'm out. And you leave hundreds or thousands of dollars sitting there to be thrown in the face of the vendor who couldn't make your experience right. But will it ever get to that in the actual physical domain? I'm here to tell you, though, as part of this larger thesis, that experience actually matters. If you want to cross the chasm, if you want to actually get from the amazing experience that we have on the consumer side and translate that to how we actually do business, right, in our business life, we've got to be smarter. And we've got to focus on the things that matter most. And experience is actually one of those connective tissues, because when I think about experience, I think about this. How's that coming from a chief technology officer? When I first saw this tweet, I was like, holy smokes, are you serious? And then I kept reading. I was like, gosh, I think he's actually nailed it. And then the capstone to his comment. You know, each and every one of us, as part of our daily lives, spends about 8 hours on a good day, 10 hours on a bad day, doing this thing called Workday. See, I'm doing interesting product positioning. We're at work, and we're having to do things that we don't really want to do necessarily. Like none of us ever, I mean, unless you're strange, and no offense, I'm calling you out, and you're like, I just love going to work and I don't know, like clicking a button all day and making an Excel spreadsheet happen or doing whatever it is. No, that's not why we work traditionally. Some of you are lucky enough to do what you love full time, and that's cool. But we work so that we can do things like, I don't know, have a life. And I think the software that's out there is only as good as those experiences that it actually promotes. Can we get there faster? Can I finish my work faster so I can go have a life and be happy and do things and walk my dog and go on my boat, spend time with my children, date my wife? So I want to have you think for a second. You did a great job in the beginning. I'm expecting more from you now that you've warmed up. Think for a second. What is your favorite application on your phone? Because you're all using smartphones today. What was that? iMessage? Starbucks. Yes, where is the Starbucks near here? Why do you like Waze? Okay, he likes to know where he's going, which is very, very typical of men. All right. So it's not for the adventure, right? You just want to go here to there? Okay. Yeah, Waze is great. So as you're thinking about your favorite apps, there's a couple of mine. Anybody use Zillow? It's like the coolest way to be a voyeur on all things real estate, right? Like, what's my home worth? Then you look at your neighbor, what's your home worth, right? It's super creepy, but fun. A couple of years ago, I got into this thing called genealogy. You're like, why are you doing that? That's a different generation's game. And I don't know, I'm in my mid-40s, and I'm enthralled by where I came from. And there's my great-grandfather Lucas. And if you could see, for those that actually did the church rules and sat in the back first, you could have seen if you sat up front. This dude was born in Monterrey, Mexico. Whoa. I didn't know that until 6 months ago. I love these apps because they're hyper engaging, whether it's a Friday night and my kids are hungry and I hit the little wizard button on Domino's and the pizza shows up. Like, how do you know me, right? They become more contextual, relevant, engaging, connected to me as a user over time. And that's the point. Good applications on the consumer side actually know you. Don't be afraid. It's actually a good thing, and you know that because you keep using them. You are feeding the beast, so shame on you. But I want to tell you, this doesn't have to be a seismic change to get to something that actually feels right within the business. Small changes over time can actually generate into incredible results. Take, for example, this crazy biker here. For those who have actually done bicycling before, this guy is doing what's called a draft. He was the leader of the pack. He was cutting the wind. He was allowing those behind him to actually take a bit of a break while he cut the wind and they could actually cycle with a little bit of a reprieve. Now, the expectation is that he would eventually cycle back to the front of the pack and pay it forward, but he decides, you know what, I'm going to do something different. Now, he's not working any harder, but watch what happens here. He completely passes the competition. He completely appends the expectations of all of those around him. He even passes a powered vehicle, and this person loses their mind so much that they take their hands off the wheel to take a picture, right? And once he has sufficiently reached a positional advantage to where he feels like, you know what, I'm good now, he gets back in the saddle and continues the race without breaking any rules. And I think the point is that to remind ourselves that sometimes incremental progress is better than no progress. Sometimes done is better than perfect. Sometimes we need to execute and iterate. The worst thing that you can do is stay in Excel and expect anything different. Right? So that said, there's been a shift over time, and some of you within this HR core of an audience actually have seen this type of a sliding scale before. For those who have been in this game for a while, you understand this notion of a core system of record is where we all started with main applications back in the day. That's what is called a database, and you just put your stuff in it. Your people stuff, your money stuff, you just put stuff there, and it kind of sat. It got stale like old cheese, but it's all good. And over time, we wanted more. And the community started to say things, well, gosh, I think that we need to have more than just a place to put stuff. We want it to be engaging too. And people were like, wow, okay, engagement, let's go there. And so they started talking for a while about a system of engagement. And it sounded magical, right? It's like, say it in your own mind while I'm saying it. Engagement. Okay, with data and a system, sure, let's make that happen. And that lasted for a few years, and then everybody started to abandon that and talk about something else. Starts with the letter A, ends with the letter I, right? Everybody started aspirationally talking about this thing called a system of intelligence. First of all, what the hell does that mean? Do you know any sentient systems today that are completely self-aware, self-promulgating, self-correcting? The answer is no. But I will tell you it's possible over time to achieve some level of sentience if you actually follow the model. What is the critical link between a system of record and a system of intelligence? You cannot get from there to here without going through the engagement layer. It's impossible. And you know that's true based on your interactions in the consumer web. You are hyper engaged across all of these domains. Some of you already mentioned Netflix. Somebody yelled out Uber, and then somebody countered with no Lyft, and it almost turned into a fight. PayPal, right? Why do these things work? It's because they're engaging, and you are feeding the beast, and they know you. They protect you from fraud at PayPal. They keep the Viagra out of your Gmail, unless you need it. And over time, that's pretty epic. Except how do you actually translate that to the business world when you've got people prancing in to sell you the future, and it all sounds like this? By the way, does that ever happen? Do you have somebody come, knock, knock, knock? Oh my gosh, I've got the best thing since sliced bread. You're going to love it. Frickin' buy it now. Oh, it will change your life. I'm a better person for it, and you will be too. Okay. And it's super hard to tell what's real and what's not. So I'm going to offer up as part of this larger intro then a couple of ideas of places that you can look and things that you can do to maybe protect yourself from the false promise of a cute unicorn. The first is pretty obvious. Just look closer. Spend that time to actually investigate. Whenever I show this kind of build to an audience with millennials or the Gen Zs, it always tickles me because they're actually willing to buy this. And I'm like, oh, living in the South for a couple of years, I've learned this expression, bless your heart. Nobody in this room, from my cursory review, thinks this is a modern television, right? The presentation is lovely. It does look like a flat screen. But if you look closer, if you really dig behind the details, if you scratch that thin veneer of UI, you start to realize that system of awesome unicornness is nothing more than a charade. And you own that. You know why? Because IT was like, I don't want to be involved with your next HR solution. Buy it yourself. And then your team was like, I'm going to totally buy the best system in the world. The unicorn comes in and tells you, I can hire, fire, promote, and job change. And you're like, holy crap, you could do those things? Then you forgot, wait a second, that's table stakes. Oh, well, it still looks awesome. And then who owns it? Who owns the messy mess behind that wall? You do. You know who else owns it? Your users, who hate it. It fell in that same camp as email and Excel. So there's an interesting study that's being published every year since 2015. Anybody ever heard of Okta? Really interesting product. Cloud-based SSO launching, kind of IDM, IDP, kind of playing in that realm. And they've got about 60% of that cloud market, which is actually pretty sizable when you consider there's some players who have been in there like Microsoft for a long time. They publish some statistics every single year that talk about which applications are actually being utilized, which are trending. And if you will actually take time to look at this over time, you'll be like, holy smokes, this is very interesting. Data, actual usage data being provided to the community writ large for introspection. That's only one area that you can look. But you know what? Not everything that looks good is actually still good, right? Does anybody know who this is, by the way? Oh my gosh, congratulations. European. Don't worry, I grew up there as well. The song? Too Shy. Well done. That was their one-hit wonder. You see, sometimes we think, gosh, this has got to be easy, right? It felt good at a certain period of time, but is it still good today? Like Liam down there in the bottom who's doing the OG nipple slip. I mean, it's like, that was way ahead of Janet Jackson's time, right? But not everything that was actually built back then is actually purpose-built for now. So just because it actually shows up on Okta's report doesn't mean it's going to create a satisfactory user experience. It's going to help you cross that chasm. There's a couple other places, though, that I would recommend when you think or you evaluate, gosh, how do I create a consumer-grade experience at work? There were no cell phones back in the day at Kajagoogoo, were there? If there were, we wouldn't be so shy, would we? So if somebody comes to you prancing and selling the unicorn, and if they don't have a verifiable presence in the mobile app community, you can rest assured that technology is not engaging. And the reason why is every single one of you who is carrying that pocket phone, you're attached to it because A, it is engaging, B, it simplifies your life, and C, it creates an experience that is tailored to you. So if somebody comes through and says, well, I've got this XYZ thing, you've got to have it, people are going to love it, we have market adoption, we're the clear leader, and by the way, it's going to change your life forever. And then you go to the App Store, whether it's Google Play or iTunes, and they've got like 236 reviews. Not downloads, reviews. Why would somebody review an app? Yell it out. Why would somebody review an app? Either they love it or they, okay. So how many of you have actually given a review in the last 30 days of something that you actually loved? Look at that. 3 people out of the whole room. So it must be very compelling if you're going to actually show a little bit of love to a developer and actually write a review, correct? It's got to be awesome. I would position to you then that if you don't go in an app store and they don't actually have thousands of reviews, run away with extreme haste. It's not real. There is no market adoption. Nobody's using it. that is a clear indicator of whether or not that's a consumer-grade experience for a business requirement setting. If there are no reviews or if they are limited in nature, it probably sucks. So I guess in the end here, while I've been preaching the gospel truth from this first church of Nothing But the Truth, I want to ask you guys to do something for me. And this is where I'm not going to ask you to do something now, but I want you to write this down, like write a personal commitment, a personal contract to you, yourself, this group, this community, whatever it is, that you will push the limits. You will push the limits when it comes to the experiences that you expect in your business life. And more importantly, you will hold vendors accountable so that eventually you can shrink that gap. You can have the experience that the people want. One that's enthralling, one where there actually are frickin' rainbow farts coming out of the unicorn, right? Where everybody feels like, this is super exciting. And by the way, the friction that I experienced in times past has actually diminished just a little bit, just enough to where I feel more connected and I can do things better, faster, smarter. So at the end of the day, I can actually go have my life back. And if you do that, I think you'll change everything. So with that, I want to thank you for your time and wish you a great day.